Back to the Golfi Real Estate Show. I'm Tom McConnell, filling in for Tim Dennis this week, and of course joined by real estate agent Rob Golfi. Rob, I am so looking forward to this next segment because I previously flipped a couple houses, and I can tell you exactly on the don't call them what to do. Like the mistakes you learn the first and even second time flipping a house are remarkable.
So this is, to me, is more for the first time flipper. And you know what I mean? Like there's so many different things here. I'm gonna start off by saying, okay, you want to start flipping homes. You're seeing this on HGTV. You're seeing, Scott McGillivray and Brian and all those guys on HG.
Oh, it's so easy. They do it in 30 minutes or an hour, Rob.
Exactly.
It's so easy.
Exactly. Okay, now I've flipped homes. I've bought homes and gutted the whole thing and re-put it together. Now, I'm going to tell you, to me, I'll tell you why not to do that if you're a first-time person. Now, when you buy a 2-story or 2.5-story and you're gutting it, it's a lot more expensive. And don't do it unless you got a load of cash in your pocket and you can afford to do it. But if you're a first-time flipper, the best ones to go after are the bungalows. They're easy to manage. You can access wiring, everything from the basement to the next floor, not a problem. Maybe it might need a kitchen, maybe some bathroom work, paint, some flooring, and that's it. Simple. That is my theory. Like that, I would say do that if you're going to start out. Don't go into these big 2.5 stories because they become so expensive. Like, I'll tell you, every single project that I've done that was a gut, and I'm on my third one, full gut, like total tear out, right to the studs, right from top floor to the basement. It always went over budget. I always went over budget. Now, so don't do that as your first one. Get a bungalow, and sometimes the wartime houses, like in Niagara Falls, near Dunn Street, there's wartime houses. St. Catharines, everywhere they have these wartime. Those are perfect. Sometimes these houses have paneling inside. Get rid of the paneling, put drywall, or paint the paneling, put new flooring, new kitchen, boom. They're your starter flipping houses. They're your starters. That's the best one to do. Another big problem that I find a lot of people have problems when they're flipping houses is they fall in love with them.
Don't fall in love. It's great the work you did. You should admire the work. Do not fall in love.
Exactly. So they buy the house. Let's say they buy it for $400,000. Okay, we can sell this house for $550,000. No problem. Okay, so they talk to a real estate, and it's always good to get a good real estate agent like ourselves, the Golfi team, and we say, okay, you buy this for this much. You can sell this in this range if you fix it up to this level, right? So you give them a number. But what happens is, as time's going on, every week they're going, oh, I think I can get this. I think I can get this. They think they can get. So you're telling them they bought it for $400,000, they get $550,000 or $525,000. Now they're thinking $600,000-$700,000, and they're falling in love. And now they're starting to over improve the house because in their mind they think they can get much more money, and maybe depending on the market, who knows. So that's the one thing you can't do is fall in love. This is a business you're in, and you're out to flip properties, and this is an income. Don't fall in love. Now, another big mistake a lot of people make when they do flipping is that they end up doing the finishes themselves, and it's disaster. You ever walk into a house, you see all the trim, it's not mitered right, it's just, it's just terrible.
Gaps everywhere. It's wavy. Oh, yeah.
And I walk in, I go, I'll tell somebody, I go, why didn't you just hire somebody? I says, somebody's going to come in here and say they're going to have to rip this out and redo it. Now it's going to cost you more money. So don't do trim if you don't know how to do trim. Don't put doors in if you don't know how to do doors. Get somebody to do it. I know, I get you. I get it. You want to save money. I understand. But it's going to cost you more money because when somebody's walking through, they're going to think they have to fix what you just did. So don't do the work if you don't have the tools or you don't know how to do it. And be careful. Like I said, don't buy the most expensive house in the neighborhood. Don't hold the house on too long. And be careful. there's so many different things, but if you're going to start doing flips, start with wartime houses, bungalows, and everything like that. And there's deals out there, and I know it's getting tougher and tougher right now to find flips because housing has gotten so expensive, and and you really got to dig. But you know what? Sometimes you can find those, drive around neighborhoods. If you see a house that's not being taken care of, it could be a rental, could be anything. Knock on the door, find out who owns the house. You know, but you know, you got to think like an investor. Don't fall in love, like I said, and get the right people to work for you. You know, like you've done renovations yourself,
Yeah.
right? I'll tell you, when I was 22 years old, okay, I bought these two semis, okay, $100,000 for the boat. It was $97,000 for the boat. So I paid $45,000 on each side. So it was partially gutted, so I bought it, and I gutted the rest. My father comes and takes a look, and he says to me, he goes, "You sure you know what you're doing here?" I had no clue. And when he said that, I knew I was in trouble. First of all, I didn't have the capital to finish that place. I didn't have the capital, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and I was like, oh boy. So you know what I did? I called, and I wasn't a realtor at the time. I was 22 years old. Okay. You know, and I've said this before. Sometimes you jump into things. It's good not to know too much because otherwise you wouldn't have done it. Well, this is one of those mistakes, but I had more positives. I had a lot more good ones than bad ones. So I called my real estate agent. I said, listen, I think I got to get rid of this. Do you think you can sell it for what I can break even on this thing? I don't care. And he goes, yeah, no problem. We sold it right away. Somebody else that was older went in and did the renovations and did a great job on it. So you know what I mean? So you got to be very careful there. So I got in and I got out, and I maybe lost a couple $1,000, but I didn't lose my shirt on it. That could have been such a bad experience for me that I probably would never have done it again. And I've said this story once before. I had a young guy, and I remember this. This guy came to me. He wanted to buy this one house. This house, and it was crawl space underneath. But when you looked underneath, you're like, what a disaster. And he wanted to buy this and flip it. And I convinced, and this is my listing, Tom. This is my listing. I convinced him, don't buy this. This will crush you. This will make you your entire 20s and into your 30s be a disaster in your life. You're going to lose money, and your parents are going to say, what the hell did you buy here? All that kind of stuff. And I said, this is not for you. Now, I could have made money if he bought this. I would have made more money, but I didn't want to do this to this kid because I knew it would be disastrous for him. So anyway, so I did sell it to a guy in his 40s. And he did renovate it, got it and everything. You know what that guy in his 40s said to me? He goes, man, I wouldn't have, if I knew what was involved in this house, I wouldn't have bought it. But he could afford to do it, right? Yeah. Like, you know, do you understand what I'm saying? Like
absolutely. I'll tell you, the first one was a disaster, and the second one was much better. First, because of the people I worked with. But the first one, to your point, start simple. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so there's a lot of things, as you said, but it's things like electrical. You got to hire a guy. What does electrical cost? Do you know how much it costs to replace a panel? Guess what? You're going to find out the first time you replace a panel.
Yeah.
And you can price that in every time. What does roofing cost? It's based on square footage. How much does your roof cost? How much does this cost? How much does this cost? You don't know. And you can't tell by what the people on TV do. It's like they don't show you the details. They're like, the renovation budget was $55,000. Here you go. Bing, bang, boom. And you're like, okay. You have to find out and figure out what everything costs. That's the learning curve right there, right, Rob? And that's why I love when you said start simple. Every floor is an added layer of complication of your project.
Absolutely. Electrical is easy when it's a bungalow because they just got to go from the basement to the main floor. It's easy. But when you have to get to the second floor, now you got to run wires to the second floor. I'm telling you, it can make a difference of just from a 2-story or 2.5-story to a bungalow, it could be a difference of $10,000 to $15,000 of having an electrician doing the work on the house, depending how big the house is and everything else. It is amazing. Like you said, just by starting off, you can do so great. I'm telling you, you spend some money and you can get some great kitchens out there. You got some IKEA kitchens, but you also have other kitchen cabinet companies. They do a lot of business, and they've got some good kitchen companies. You buy a nice vanity, put some nice flooring, and you know what? You're off to the races. You've got a nice house. What people want today, what people are looking for, they are looking for houses that they can just move into without doing the work. So you are the person that they're looking for to buy this house. And there's a lot of people like the mass population. I just want a house to move into, and I can just put my couches there, kick my feet up, and enjoy. And that's what the mass is looking for. Now, but again, be careful on gutting. Those houses that were built in the early 1900s, I mean, they're plaster and lath. Oh, disaster. Be careful unless you got deep pockets. You know what I mean? So you got to be very, very careful. Like I said, I've done some quick ones and I've done some big ones. And I found the quick ones, sometimes your profit margins are pretty good because, you didn't move any walls. You didn't change any walls. You just kept everything the same and just boom, just bing, bang, boom. And you went ahead and did it. And a lot of these older bungalows, they're built in the 50s and 60s. I mean, they're plaster construction. These houses are built solid. They got great bones in them. They've got fantastic bones. You know what I mean? Just put a kitchen in there. I mean, there's so many young couples out there. I mean, yeah, it's nice. You can open up a wall and make it all open concept. Let somebody else do that. But just, hey, you're a starter guy starting into flipping houses. Do it that way. Simple.
I want to ask your advice on, you said, surfaces, kitchens, start simple. Some kitchens are out of date, the cabinets, the appliances. Okay. That is an easy renovation, right? A kitchen, you may have to bring in some of the electrician maybe to change an outlet or whatever, and finishes and surfaces. How much do you look at it through the eyes of your investor? I have $20,000 to spend. Or do you sometimes, I would like a, marble countertop, or I would like the high. You really have to be disciplined there, don't you? You're not buying the house for you. You're buying it to sell to someone else who may have different taste, but maybe less expensive taste. You have to accept that. That's something I think flippers, they're putting in quartz countertops on houses. It's the most expensive thing in this house. That's way out of place here.
Oh, I know. You know what the problem is? Because the market has gone up so much in the last 5 years or even 7 years. So not only did you buy a fixer-upper, put money into it, and then put it up for sale, not only you had the increase because you increased the value of the property, but you also had inflation increase because house prices were going ridiculously up. So people are used to making, $50,000 to $80,000 to $100,000 on a flip. You know what? Those days are not going to be there forever. If you can make $25,000 on a flip, if you do 3-4 flips a year, you know what I mean? We want to make 50 grand, 100 grand. If you can do that, fantastic. But the luxury homes, you can do that. Luxury homes, people make, sometimes $200,000 to $300,000 on a flip. But that's a different market. You have to have big money. You got to put, the marble and all that kind of stuff. But when I'm telling you, starting to flip, just go with the bungalows and you will do fantastic. It's not big money, but it's a good way to get started in the business. You get to learn your contractors, who you like, who you don't like. You get to feel all the different things, all the things that it goes with it. But that's my 2 cents of.
Yeah, I like that. Before we go, the first 3 to 5 flips, you're learning the business. Don't expect to come out of the gate knowing everything when you know nothing, right? Take your time, learn the business, and then you'll be set for your future ones.
Absolutely.
For more information and to speak to a member of Rob's team, you can always reach them at 905-397-8386 or online at robgolfi.com. That's robgolfi.com, GOLFI.com. And don't forget to check them out on social media. On Instagram, it's at Golfi Team, and on Twitter, at Rob Golfi. This is the Golfi Real Estate Show, and we're back with more after this short break. in London, maybe in other, maybe Hong Kong. I can see this happening. But the first car condo is coming to Toronto. What the heck is a car condo? Or is it exactly what it sounds like? A place to park your cars.
It is exactly what it is. It's people that so like especially in Toronto and New York City. Sometimes people, like a lot of people in those cities, don't have cars, right? And they don't need cars because everything's all down in the core city. Like I know, like my cousin for many years, he didn't even have a driver's license. He lived downtown Toronto. He didn't have a driver's license because everything was there. Like the subway, buses, transportation was all there. But there's people that do have cars, and they may have more than one car. Now, if you drive, like guaranteed, most people have 2 cars to 3 cars in their driveway. They have kids, this and that. So now there are condos out there that are big, and husband and wife, they need a car each, and they do travel. Or it's insane. Like if you look at anybody, like in Niagara or Hamilton or whatever. People always have cars. There's no big metropolitan area like downtown, like Toronto or in New York City. So, in the city, space is available. The price tag to purchase a suite in condo is expected to be hefty, apparently. So, these are people that have probably more 1, 2, 3, even 4 cars. They're car collectors, some of them, and they're figuring that the average cost for a parking space in downtown Toronto is $50,000 to $100,000. So if you're buying a condo, which I mean, if I would always buy a condo with a parking spot, whether you're in Niagara, Hamilton, or Burlington, because if you don't have one, you're going to have a hard time selling it because where we are, everybody drives a car. Toronto, yeah. I get it. You don't need one as much, but you do need one in the Golden Horseshoe. So now people are upset because they're getting these are properties that don't have the zoning for a condo to build a condo, and then people are getting upset because there's a shortage of homes and there's we need some low income properties and everything. Here's another big problem with the city where they're making it difficult for housing. So this guy owns a piece of land. It's right by the highway or whatever. And he says, it's easier for me to make this into a car condo than it is to make it into a residential condo. I have to go through leaps and bounds and craziness to get this property zoned for a residential condo. I can build tomorrow for a car condo. See, do you see how now we have a shortage of homes in Canada and probably in the United States too? Why we have a shortage? Because our government. So anyway, these guys, and they feel there's a huge demand for that. And most people have a lot of cars. You know what I mean? Like in downtown Toronto, if you can afford to live there, obviously you got lots of money, so you probably can afford more than 1 or 2 cars. So
what would the price be? So like how much would it be for your cars like that? And you'd have to go there, but for a lot of people, so what, right? Like if you can't store your cars where you live because no one's going to pay that much at a condo. So it's like, okay, it's a 5, 10, 15-minute drive away. I'm not driving all my cars every day. There's collector cars. Maybe you've got a car you've always had since high school, right? But what do they expect these to go for?
You know what it is? I know it seems like a lot. Like, I mean, if they're buying a car for an investment, well, for sure they blew their investment by having a spot for their car. Because I mean, if it's going to be, but obviously they're going to have to pay for heat or whatever to manage. So I honestly I don't know like what they're going to sell them for, but there's a demand for it out there. Like a lot of people, like they have a summer car that they have. I don't think this is the place where you actually take the train or the bus to your car spot and take your car and go to work or go whatever. I think this is a place where you put your summer car or you put your antique car or whatever, or something that your car that you have. And then you just park it there and you can come and go with it anytime you want, I guess. So, you know what? It's just they're filling a demand that people need out there. And because there's people there, you have no idea. People are renting parking spots from people that own condos with parking spots that don't have a car. And they're getting big money like every month. So not only they are paying for a parking spot in the condo, let's say they rent their neighbor's parking spot, They're paying their rent for their car. Wherever they're driving to work, they're probably paying for a parking spot there to a parking lot. Like it's like I remember I used to, going to the hospital where you had to pay for parking like 30 years ago. Like, wow, I got to pay $2. That seems like a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like it was like it depends where you are. Like what I mean? Like if you're in Toronto, you kind of expect it. At Hamilton, it's like, yeah, okay, you got to pay for it. Niagara, they got off the hook pretty easily for a lot of years, because it was just $1 here and $1 there. But when you get into right into deep Toronto, parking is expensive. So I get it. I understand people are upset, but hey, blame that to the cities and the government of making it difficult for builders to build homes out there. If they pass developers to build homes and residential homes or whatever, I don't think we'd have this crisis. But so this guy just said, hey, I got a property, I can get approval right away to build a car condo spot, and I'm going to do it. So there you go.
And it's also interesting because when my view of Toronto is coming in on the QEW, and you see, right, corridors of condos, and you think, why? I don't know if I could live next to a highway. But there are some places where it's inappropriate to have residents. There are places where it's like, I understand the point, but we can't put everyone everywhere just because we have a shortage. Let's find more appropriate places to put people than next to a major rail line and a highway. It makes sense. Maybe we shouldn't house people there. So speaking of Toronto, interesting article, and I want your thoughts on it. You make $75,000 a year. Will you ever be able to afford a Toronto house? I'm going to say, does the article just have one word? No.
Absolutely, you don't. You can't. There's no way. I mean, it's getting to a point where what do you do? Like, if you're a single person and you want to buy a house in Toronto and you're only making $75,000 or whatever, you're not going to be able to afford to buy a house. It's not in the cards for you. I don't know. Do you put your money into stocks and bonds or whatever to, hopefully beat inflation? If you're renting, so it's just a reality right now, and it's going to start happening, coming down the Queen Elizabeth way all the way towards Niagara. Like look at now, like Niagara. I mean, average sale prices are creeping 700 plus. Like they're starting to hit the 700,000 range. So. You got Hamilton, and then you got Toronto. Like it's just everybody's just getting pushed out. It's getting pushed out of Toronto because it's more affordable down the Queen Elizabeth way. But it's drive till you can afford. Until you can afford what you want.
What is typical of affordability when you obviously have, clients come to you every day, you got to fill out this. All right, let's qualify you for a mortgage. How much do you make? I mean, that's the basic question. How much do you make and how much house are you trying to buy? What's a standard, I guess, affordability ratio? What do banks look at and say, it's 30%, it's 25%, it's 20%, and it probably depends upon your complete balance sheet. But typically what do banks say is affordable?
I think it's 35% of your gross income, and that's with full debt, or 30% for your or 30% of your income for the mortgage that you can afford. And basically also having the down payment. When we're finding probably 30% of the people that we're dealing with, first time buyers, they're getting help from their parents with their down payment, and it's the only way. That's here, but I don't even know. Like in Toronto, like it's in Toronto. I would assume it's going to be even more. Like they need 200,000 almost or whatever to put a down payment down on $1 million house. Like it just.
Yeah. And even if it was a third, Rob, so I'm just doing quick math, a third of 75,000 is 25,000 and 12 months, right? You could afford a mortgage just over $2,000. That's not a lot of house.
No.
That's why you say drive till you qualify.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what the bank says, this is what typically you can afford. And then, well, I just did the simple math and really, so in Toronto, it becomes, but Manhattan, not many people own houses in Manhattan.
No.
London, England, lots of people rent.
That's right.
And it's still super attractive. I don't, people may want to move out, but they're still, I want to move to New York City. I want to move to London, England.
Yeah.
There are places where people don't own their houses and seem to be doing okay. Maybe that's what Toronto's
And you know what? And it's common, and it's the norm over there. It's the norm in New York City to rent. It's like, it's not like they don't look down at you. And I'm saying I'm not looking down at people that are renting, but it's the norm. The majority do rent. And same thing in the UK. And but I mean, everybody wants that dream of owning their own place, and everybody. I wish everybody can have that opportunity in life, because not because I'm a real estate agent, but because because it is something that people want in life, and I hope everybody. If there's ways that I could find people to afford, I would definitely help them. There's no doubt.
Yeah. All right. And then finally, this is an interesting story about a real estate agent who was, tell me about, first of all, the Real Estate Council of Ontario. So what is their role?
Real Estate Council of Ontario is like the police for real estate agents. So they're like the police. They are worse than the police. So they want to make sure that you run
worse than the police.
They're tougher than the police. They're tougher.
Okay, all right.
They are like the FBI. So the RCMP. So what they do is, so this person had to face they call it RECO, Real Estate Council of Ontario, and basically he sold a property that he mentions it has an apartment in the basement, and he did not disclose it wasn't a legal apartment. So, and there was nothing in writing. Apparently, the agent says, "I told you it wasn't legal," but the buyer says, "No, I didn't see that email. I don't remember you saying that." That's why you always got to send emails, and we always do. Put it in writing so everybody knows exactly. Now, the agent had to pay a restitution of $15,000 to the buyer because this property had an apartment downstairs, but it wasn't a legal apartment. Now, this is a lot of mistakes that a lot of agents make. Like, we always get, if we're selling a duplex, we get a zoning certificate. It costs $200, depending on area, to get from the city. We put that with our listing, because we want to make sure that if you're buying this house, you are buying a duplex. Now, I've got duplexes out there that has a third apartment. We tell people, listen, this is a duplex. The third apartment was put in after. It's not a registered triplex. It's a registered duplex. Hey, if nobody bothers you about the third unit, God bless you. But that could end up closing down on you. Now, the guy that's owned it for 20 years. He's been renting that third floor or the basement or whatever it is as a triplex for 20 years. Nobody's bothered him. He's all there. But that could change. You just don't know. So, and then we put that in writing, and we give him a zoning certificate. So whoever's buying the house knows it's a duplex, even though there's 3 apartments in there. And what this guy got busted on was that he sold it as a duplex. Probably said that you can rent out the apartment, and somebody must have complained, and he couldn't rent it. Now, if you have an apartment in the basement, you can rent it to your family, in-law. That's what it should have said on the listing. Probably it should have said in-law setup, not a separate apartment. You could say in-law with a separate entrance.
Interesting. So that is one where it's like, when people say in-law suite.
Yeah.
Basically, they're saying we have a
private in-law suite.
Private in-law suite. If you want to go through the zoning and the residential and all that, you can get it approved, but it's not a duplex. That doesn't mean we're not renting it as a duplex, but all it's legally allowed is an in-law suite. Oh, because they're not interchangeable. That is a really good distinction you made there.
Yeah.
People often think, it's an income property. Oh, it's an in-law suite. Oh, it's a granny flat. It's like, yeah. All right, there's very tight rules on who you can legally rent that to. And I find it interesting, had to pay the buyer because the buyer was probably counting on that income. So had to pay the buyer $15,000 to resolve that dispute and paid a fine of $4,000 on top of that. I don't know, Rob, $19,000 off your commission seems like just for something that you can so simply do.
Somebody didn't do their homework there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, great show as always.
Thanks
you for all the information. Can't wait to see you again. And if you're looking to talk to Rob or one of his team, you can always reach them at 905-397-8386 or online at robgolfi.com. That's robgolfi.com, Golfi.com. And of course, check them out on social media. They're on Facebook for Golfi Real Estate. On Instagram, it's at Golfi Team, and on Twitter, at Rob Golfi. On behalf of Rob Golfi, my name's Tom McConnell. Have yourself a great rest of the day. This has been the Golfi Real Estate Show.